And now we are going to welcome our final guest to this section. You will all know him, I'm sure, by reputation, if not by name. This is Jorge Fontanez, the CEO of B Lab. Hello, Jorge.
Hi, Stuart. Great to see
Hey,
you.
great to meet you. How you doing?
Good to be here.
So tell me all about B Lab. I feel like everyone watching this is going to
Yeah.
know what a B Corp is, but
Yeah.
what are there kind of misconceptions about what a B Corp is and isn't?
I am so glad you asked the question because most people don't know B Lab, the nonprofit behind certified B Corps.
Okay.
So we are a global organization. I get to lead U.S. and Canada, but we are one of 7 sister organizations committed to changing the economic system to make it more regenerative, inclusive, and equitable.
Okay.
Our work is first and foremost, yes, about creating a set of standards that support companies through their sustainability journey. And we're also about accountability, transparency, and continuous improvement. And what we offer to B Corps once they get to that status is community. It's our biggest asset. So we have 8,000 certified companies now globally, 2,500 in the US and Canada. And, our work is really about ensuring that the value proposition of what it means to become a B Corp continues to evolve. That we've set a standard, but we're not content with meeting the bar, but always raising the bar.
Okay. Does that mean if people watching this want to become a B Corp, that they should get in quick because it's going to get harder to become a B Corp? Or is it that once
Well,
they're onboarded, then you up the metrics for continuance of?
So continuous improvement is, in fact, a motivating factor for B Corps today.
Yeah.
We have a minimum score that a company needs to achieve, 80, in order to be certified. And that score, often companies are trying over the course of 3 years in between certifications, they're trying to figure out how can we improve? Where are our gaps? And we celebrate some of our B Corps that actually are the highest scoring, like Dr. Bronner's in the US.
Okay.
Now, our standards are also changing. So this is a big conversation within our community. B Lab has been around for 20 years. Our assessments have evolved over that time, but what it means to be a B Corp in the next 2 to 3 years will change fundamentally to a set of minimum requirements. And we're in an open consultation period. So we invite feedback right now on what that looks like.
And what are the things? Are there particular elements that you see people failing their B Corp status, or those gaps? Let's not say failing, but the gaps which you need to say you have to work on this. Did they have things in common? Do you find that there are
Yeah.
certain industries that tend to overlook certain elements of that they need?
Yeah, there is a lot of commonality about what companies need support in. So just to point out, over 250,000 companies have actually approached our open assessment tool.
Okay.
And from that data, we know that the average company gets to about a 56. So
Okay.
most companies actually don't achieve that minimum score. What are some of the gap areas? Many of the gap areas sometimes have to do with policies and procedures that they did not recognize they need to put in place for their workers.
Okay.
But on the other side, many of our B Corps are also working collaboratively on climate action.
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of urgency today about how we lower greenhouse gas emissions and the overall global temperature of the planet. But there are also networks, communities of practice
Yeah.
across the globe that are sharing what's working. And that is, I think, really the value of being part of the B Corp community. Oftentimes we see companies making commitments, but they don't necessarily have the roadmaps. And what we're learning is that sustainability leaders are often tasked with a really big job, which is to figure out how to close the gap for their company. And there's a culture of not sharing innovations that we need to rethink in order to, I think, address the problem more quickly.
Well, this was going to be my next question because we just heard from Michael Martin from our world, and he was talking about how they'd come up with this technology and they would do the reusable cups. And now loads of other companies were getting on board. And he said he put a very positive spin on that. Well, we like that because now it's an industry.
Right.
But I'm also interested in the other side of it, whereby if a company has made a particular leap towards something that gives them a competitive edge,
That's right.
where does that sit with the idea of community and sharing and all going in the same direction? That must be a really huge hurdle to overcome.
I think it is, and we have examples of how it can work. So yes, we want to get to co-opetition. There's a
Say that word again. That was good.
co-opetition.
Co-opetition.
Right?
Okay.
Cooperative competition.
Okay.
Right. There's what's called the B Corp Beauty Coalition. So these are fashion beauty brands that are sharing best practices, and they've agreed on 3 areas of focus. One is formulation, one is packaging, and the third is supply chain, greening the supply chain.
Okay.
I think that kind of network demonstrates that they can create guardrails in a way that even competitors can come to the table to say, yes, we want to work on these issues together while maintaining our IP.
Yes, got you. Because they can be part of the same group. Guardrails.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that. They
It's
can go,
about guardrails.
these are the metrics, and we've got to work towards these different elements of it.
That's the future of innovation, especially if we're talking about impact. It needs to be a collective effort.
So do you get up every morning thinking, yippee, we're going to solve it. This is fine. Because you're at the center of an incredibly important part of the business approach to sustainability.
Yeah.
Are you filled with hope yourself, or are you so close to it that you know too many of the darker elements of it as well?
Well, I am filled with hope. I am optimistic. And I think that's in part because we have 500 B Lab employees around the world that are so committed to our mission and committed to new ways of working ourselves. And we've looked internally to understand what do we need to change about the way we do what we do in order to make our organization a best place to work, and then have that translate to our community. I actually don't see ourselves at the center. I think B Corp and the B Corps and B Corp community is at the center, and we get to nurture this ecosystem because what we are calling B Corps especially to do in the US and in Canada is to speak out on issues. So if I may, there are 3 chapters to B Lab. The first chapter was there's a set of standards, change corporate practice, and many signed up to do that. The second chapter was we need to change some issues around the way policy kind of directs and determines the way business operates, right? Okay. And so we did a thing, and that also has changed the face and what it means to be a B Corp today.
Okay.
The next step is to actually go outside of our comfort zones. We need B Corps to actually come together and decide what are the issue areas that we want to collectively ensure that our communities benefit from over the next few years or decade and years to come.
Yes.
And there's not a lot of legislation pending today around climate and social issues, but I think our community is ripe to try and frame what's possible.
I'm interested in that idea of moving outside of your comfort zone, because I think one of the big strategic changes that needs to happen within sustainability is people, or not even within sustainability, but within the wider world, people need to increasingly, in order to face the climate crisis, not just run away and put their heads in the sand, they need to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable. So everyone needs to move out of a comfort zone of one sort or another, whether it's moving on within B Labs and kind of creating the next stage.
Yes.
So what is it about you and your particular personality, do you think, that suits the work that you do? What qualities do you have that you feel you need in the work that you do?
So let me say, I am highly empathetic with CEOs in the position that they're in today.
Okay.
Because as a leader, every day we get to wake up and work on the things that we enjoy, but we are increasingly having to address issues that business has not been historically asked to weigh in on. For me personally, I have a meditation practice and I practice deep listening. And that—
I don't know what deep listening is, which is terrible given the circumstances in which we find
let's
ourselves.
just say it's listening without interruption.
Okay.
Right? It is about centering the stakeholder. And so what does that look like? That looks like creating forums for workers to share how they think policies and practices need to evolve in the organization to support their well-being. It means going out. You talked about how do we get out of our comfort zones, going out into community and speaking with climate justice and social justice community leaders who have not historically had a relationship with business in the most positive way.
Okay. Yeah.
It's also about meeting with your policymakers, with representatives who aren't historically used to having companies come to them unless they're lobbying
Yeah.
for something in their self-interest.
Okay.
These are the ways in which we need to evolve. And so for me, I'm very focused on our team's well-being in order to ensure that we can actually meet our mission ultimately.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Jorge Fontanez, CEO of B Lab. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, nice to be here.